Hello, everyone. Welcome to Boulder Insights May Tableau Live session, where Chris Cox, our GGTK, good guy to know, founder and visionary, joins me, Heather Datillo, the COO of Boulder Insight, to answer your questions live and on the spot. So we do our best. We used to call this Stump the Chump back in the days of the Boulder Tableau user group. Chris is the chump, by the way, not me. That was his name. But we're so excited to be joining you all in May and answering the questions that have been submitted. So there may be folks who are joining us partway through today. We've had several people register for the webinar. So if you hear any of those people coming on in, they are welcome to join us. We will be answering submitted questions first today. And then those of you who are joining us live and not watching the recording after this, will have some opportunities for open Q&A. So the questions that have been submitted today that we'll be covering are around dynamic zone visibility and parameter actions, Tableau desktop calculations, and LODs in particular. We've had 2 questions come in with that. Some questions around Tableau cloud permissions and Tableau bridge. We're going to focus on the cloud permissions today, and we can take that Tableau bridge question offline as well if needed, just from a time perspective and things today. Then we'll jump into maps and using the mapping features. And then we did get an interesting question around dynamic titles and how can you show none for the null without showing none for the null values. And so we have a kind of innovative, hacky kind of approach that Chris has come up with that. And we also had a question around custom SQL and SQL stored proc linking, so Sproc linking. If you don't have a question, if this is not one of the questions for those of you who are joining us live that you had coming in, please put your question into chat and we'll make sure we go ahead and answer those questions. We also have a little question for you for fun to get some engagement kicked off and getting to know a little bit more about you. So Amber just put that question into the link. We're asking, where are you located? And now that it's cookout season, what's your go-to potluck dish or barbecue dish that you bring to picnics and parties and barbecues? So let us know where you're located first. That's always fun for us to know. And your favorite potluck while we start jumping into questions. Once we go through the submitted questions, we will answer open questions from the group that is here. If we see that that your question is one that might take a little bit more time, we will actually move your question up in the queue and bring one of these questions back to next month's session as well. So, so please don't hesitate to ask any questions if you have them directly. Sometimes people just like to come and join the fun and watch and learn with us together. So that is totally fine too if you don't have one. All right. So, Chris, I am going to actually hand this first question over to you. This came from Patty, and I'm seeing if Patty is here. So, Patty, if you want to come off mute at all and add any context to the questions you have around the dynamic zone visibility, parameter actions, or LOD calcs, feel free to come off mute and let us know. Otherwise, Chris will just jump in and start trying to answer them. So, let me stop sharing my screen, Chris, so you can share yours.
All right. Patty, do you want to tell us anything about that, or just for me just to show you what I think you want to know?
I'll go with what you think I want to know, and I'll ask any follow-up questions.
All right. So I'm going to use this dashboard today for a couple of different pieces. So the zone visibility is kind of a new feature. What you used to be able to do was, and you can still do this, but you could put something inside of a container. Let's just say I put just some text in here. I can do that. Put some text in here, whatever. And then you could do like the little show hide thing. So on the container, you do a show hide button, and that would make it go, there and back. If you could see this at all, it would make actually sense. I'll use better colors. But so now you don't have to do that with just having a whole container. You can do that with anything. So I had to have the container to be able to do the show hide. Which I've now lost my thing because it's a color I can't see. There we go. So that would show hide that. But now what you can do is, instead of doing it that way, you can do this, do the exact same thing with anything you want. So like, for example, if I were to go into a sheet and I'll make a do like parameter. I'll just, oops, that's a calculation. Make a new parameter, create parameter, and we'll just call it show hide. And we want to choose the Boolean. So you got true, false, and you can make this be anything you want, show hide. And now once I have that done, I can go back to my dashboard and say, okay, I actually want this graph to be actually controlled. So if I go up here, click layout, I can select this like a control of visibility. So then I click the checkbox and it shows me all the different parameters I have. So now I just tie that to it. So now if this one was on my dashboard, I could do let's see here, parameters, show hide. So I'll pull the spot, we'll just put it over here. And so now if I just do hide, and that's going to go actually away, right? So this is really handy for things. We actually used it not too long ago when we had two different graphs, and we kind of wanted the header to stick out on one side or on the other and kind of look like it was going on and off. So we just had two different graphics that basically went back and forth by kind of using that. So but you can now tie that same thing to anything you want. So if I wanted to tie it to the whole background, I can even do that as well. So now I got the background and that graph on the show hide. Right.
This is awesome, Chris, because this was so much more complicated before. Yeah, I'm thinking about our colorblind dashboard that we do. This would have been so much simpler. That was really complex.
Yeah, this was much harder to do, and the only, let me find that one really quick because I know where it is. That's a really good dashboard. This is one we did just because, you know, if you've been around this whole community, there's a lot of people that are really sticklers about like using like red and green and not using that stuff. But you know, I always say, for the same reason that we still put stairs in places, that there's some people that can't walk upstairs, but you still have them. So you still want to use red and green for the people that can see it. So this is a dashboard that this function would have made this super easy, but we still did it just in a different way. Let me pull it over here. Gotta get out of, come on. Sometimes with the Mac, you gotta be, there we go. Come on. Wish my background's not showing up at all. That's interesting. So anyway, well, there comes finally. So yeah, kind of the same concept, but here I wanted to swap out the whole background. So I wanted it to go a different color. So we
the color palette.
Yeah, different color palette and everything. So we can do that and make that happen. But you know, but it was a little bit harder how we had to do it. But now it's super easy. So does that help solve your problem that you're thinking about with those zones?
I think that's helpful. One thing that I noticed at Tableau conference is that a lot of presenters brought up dynamic zone visibility, but not many examples. And one thing that I realized is that the version of server that we're using does not support it. So I thought I was being cool by doing a sheet swap, using it, thinking, oh, this is so easy. And then I had to undo everything because it wasn't supported when I published it.
We had the exact same problem. We just did a project for a client, and their server, and we told them, hey, if we're going to do what you're wanting, we have to have this. We have to have at least this version. I think it was like 2022.1 or something. I can't remember what it was, but some version. And then they ended up not actually doing it. So it was really horrible. But okay, what else do we have, Heather?
Yeah, so let me get back to sharing my screen here real fast, Chris. The other question, we'll stick with Patty's, the parameter actions and LOD calcs. So why don't we go ahead and hop into parameter actions next, Chris, and show an example of that.
What do you mean by actually that? What do you mean by like a parameter action?
Actually, I cannot remember filling out this form anymore, and I was straight off of Tableau conference, so I apologize for that. I think it was just one of those things where they said, get familiar with parameter actions, and since I've come back, I've tried a few different things. Same thing with LOD. I know the Flurlurch twins did some examples with order of operations and table calcs and LOD calcs, and just in general, sometimes it can get a little confusing. So I didn't know if you had
For sure.
already done presentations on that, or you had sort of canned responses or solutions.
It's kind of one of those things that, that you're always gonna have to kind of do them. It just kind of depends on what you're doing. The one I always end up doing is something like this to kind of show what it means. Like if we're saying, we've got your, I'm on the wrong, I couldn't figure out what I was doing here. Like if you're looking at, let's say your sales by year order date, and this is a bar. So the common question somebody would ask, actually, it's not even do sales. Let's do the count of customers. Let's do that. Okay, count distinct. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the common question somebody would ask, this is where you would think about using like level of detail, is okay, I've got 1,130 that bought year one. How many of those same people bought year two? How many of those people bought year three? So to do that, that's how you do it, is you create like a level detail calculation. So like I don't really have a good way to teach these other than with examples, because you just have to think about, okay, what level do I need it at? So this one I'm saying, okay, well, I actually need to know the first date of this person's order date, right? So what was the minimum of their actually dates, right? They all have some. So now just by doing that, so now I have given the minimum order date of each one. Well, now I just drag that on color, and now that tells me 499 of the 1,130 bought year two, 493 bought year three, 668 bought year four, right? So a really quick way to do it, but to kind of teach about how to think about level of details. I mean, there's so much that you'd have to do. The one thing we always do is we kind of build these QA sheets. And so when I start working through a problem, I'll just have a big cross tab and I'll just have data lined up, and I kind of walk through every section. And so if you can think about a level of detail is, okay, I needed this same value for all of these rows. So you end up nesting your level of detail pieces to make that one column work properly. So I don't know how to teach you that without just showing an example. But does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the thing that gets tricky with LOD is I used to always default to fixed, and then
Yeah.
I've noticed that include and exclude is in a different area of the order of operations.
Sure.
And so that's what I've sort of run into with that before too. So just thinking about it in a different way.
Yeah, for sure. Tableau order of operations. So if you guys know what she's talking about this one. This is a good one. So you'll have your include and exclude will be here. This is not big enough. It's not. We'll see everything at once. Yeah, I picked the wrong one. Okay, so you have your extract filters, data source filters, context filters. So this is like the one I use really often. So I actually use that a lot, but then your fix goes here, but your include and exclude goes way after your whole dimension filters. So I mean, it's really rare that I want something to filter on a dimension first and then filter here. So I don't know. Can you explain a time that you use include and exclude versus fixed?
I think it depended on what was in the view and what wasn't. And now as I'm looking at this list again, I see I was doing something that was blending data, and that was probably my problem.
I see. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, what I do a lot of times is I'll have a dimension filter, but I need it to happen before my fix. So I just put it in my context. So if you don't know what that is You go to here. So, whoops. I don't know, you probably have a good way about it. So if I was to filter on, let's say I had to filter on, I don't know, product like category. So right now, this is going to filter. So this color is going to happen first because, oops, I get to was trying to do the Alt Tab thing. It didn't work for me. It's stuck. So there you go. There we go. So right now I've got my fixed calculation happening. Then I have my dimension filter happening. If I wanted it to go the opposite way, I wanted this one to happen first. I just right click it and say add to context. So that's going to turn it gray. So now I'm filtering first on the furniture. Then I'm going to do my level of detail calculation. See that?
Yeah. And Chris, in the example, I did put in the link to the order of operations that you were talking through. If you scroll down a bit in that article, they talk about include and exclude and how you don't have to use a context filter if you use that. So that's a great example that you just used there as well. It is nuanced. The nice thing that's happening if you have Tableau Cloud and Einstein Copilot that will be coming out. I believe they've said that's going to be sometime in June. That will be coming out. They're going to start writing a lot of calcs for you with Copilot. So that hopefully will help in the context of some of the questions and things too. But LODs are just one of those tricky things. For those of you on the call right now too, I put in, it's still my favorite article on LODs. I've read many of them, but the top 15 LOD expressions, that link is in chat as well. That has several examples that I often would teach from when I was on the road teaching for Tableau and now do virtually more and more. So that's still my go-to article of all the ones that are out there. And then Patty, I know parameter actions was one of the things that were talked about. This is the help article. You've probably seen it, but you may not have scrolled down far enough in the link that I put for the help article for that. And there's a bunch of additional examples in the shaded area that can be really powerful. And some of them might start to click on when to use parameter actions as well. So just put in some great resources for everybody so they can see that. So Chris, I think what I want to do now is go to one of our live questions that came in. I put it to you in chat. This came in from Fernando, and he was asking, can I have one date filter for all of my dashboards, for all my dashboard charts, even if they are using different date types like ship date or order date?
Yes, you can, and you actually should.
Okay, so let's talk this through.
So I was going to pull up another thing. So the one thing that we do quite often, I'm gonna get off of the screen, it's driving me crazy. Let's get out of here. I'm trying to think where I have it here. Let me grab yes, what you should do, and let me just do this. I'll just do it with this one, the one we got here. So what I would do a lot of times if I have multiple dates is I would actually I'm gonna do a new one so I can not mess this up. New data source, let's just do Superstore, and I want to edit. So what you do is, come on. Oh, okay, that's fine. All right, is you take your order date, you take your ship date, and you pivot them. So now you got all your dates in one column. So now you have one filter that works on both. Does that make sense?
So remember, Chris, this blew some minds at the CC conference when we did that. This is the new dimension. What was the feature, Chris? It was called
yeah, they
dynamic
had
dimensions.
Like the dynamic of dimensions. I kind of sat in the little breakout area with the lady kind of explaining it, and she's like, oh, you can do this, you can do that, you can make it a secondary dimension and whatever. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just start with date? And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, you don't need to do what you're doing. You can already do it. You just need to start with date. And so we kind of argue back and forth a little bit. And finally, she's like, yeah, you're kind of right. I don't understand why we're doing this.
No, and I think it's still going to be a great feature for folks, but we just started doing this about a year ago, really, though, Chris, right? I mean,
Well,
I think we
yeah, I
started
mean,
leaning into patient journeys and employee journeys. We started really recognizing the importance of having a single date field like that. So
I was going to show even, this is what I showed her. Where the heck is it? Hey, here's, I got it. This is what I showed her at the conference. I'll pull it up. But yeah, so that's really all you do. You just pivot your dates on the side. And then if you're missing dates, which you're going to be missing some, it's not going to have every date in there. Sometimes it's better to go ahead and make like a date dimension data source or table. Just give me every date possible. So that's what we did with this one. This is exactly what I showed her. I was like, well, I don't need to. Come on, there we go.
And Chris, when you are done, I know you've made that pivot. If you could show Fernando how that would work in a dashboard, that might be helpful to solidify the deal. And I think you're doing that. I think that's where you're headed here.
Yeah, yeah, I'll definitely show it. So, so this one here, this is what we ended up doing. Where's my? Oh, this isn't our presentation. This is the actual dashboard. I meant to show. Where's the presentation that we did? Well, I can just show you the actual data behind it. So what we did.
I know what you're looking for, Chris. You're looking for the data model. Yeah, I'll try to find it.
I can't even, well, I guess. In Snowflake. So I can show you the data model. So this one we did exactly the same thing. So we're trying to have all the dates line up so we can make this like a Gantt chart. Well, so this was a bunch of different data sets. We had dates for training, we had dates for vacation, we have dates for hire date, for job interview, all these different pieces. Well, so then we ended up making a date table that's every date for the next, back several years and ahead 50 years. And so that just became our leftmost table. And so now all things join off of dim date. And then we can just attach all these to it, right? So there's date starting. And then this one joins off of the ID, but we start with that, right? There's a date joining in. Training, we have a date, right? But this would be what we use for our whole filter. So that made it really easy to do, to do this employee journey. I should just put the back button versus that. It's going to try to create the extract, doesn't it? No, I didn't do it. Like, I like to show this guy. So here's I like to show, what's his name?
Whitby.
Whitby.
No.
Whitby's the guy.
Whitby.
Yeah. So here's his employee journey. That's not him.
Oh,
dang it.
That's not him.
Yeah,
That's all right, Chris. Don't worry.
Anyway.
I put the link directly to you, Chris, and so that goes to it. And I did put a screenshot for everybody of the way that dimension date can work with employee recruiting and what that looks like behind the scenes. So I did put a screenshot in there for everybody as well.
Here will be that date field I just switched over. So now I've got one date that I can filter on, right? So I can do relative to dates, and it's my full list. And then I could tell you whether it's an order date or ship date, because that's going to have a row for each one. Does that make sense? Does that help you?
Fernando, I know you're calling in audio wise. How was that helpful? Okay, we're hoping so. The results are in for potlucks, by the way. Oh, go ahead, Fernando. Yep, go ahead, Fernando.
Yes. Thank you, Heather. Yes, Chris, that was helpful. And so just going into the data source, even if I have more than 2 date fields, let's say I had like 5 different date fields, I can pivot all of them at once?
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Yep. Fernando,
Okay.
I wish I'd known this years ago.
And then when I do any type of, the basic calculations, kind of like the year-over-year growth or anything like that, it'll apply it to each one.
Yeah, you're gonna have to write. You have to write some new. Your probably your calculations aren't gonna work exactly the same way that you think. So like I had to do the same thing for this one. So this example, we have all these different dates, right? This is all like this is the whole like pick one of these. So this guy happened on 6/23. Well, the had like due diligence happening on 7/4 and 7/21. So these, when they start out, they're all like separate columns. But to make this chart and to make it like really look good, you have to pivot everything into one single column. So that's exactly what I did here. But then getting these calculations to give me the right stuff was a little bit tricky. Let's just see what I did. I can't remember. So let's see. This is the size is going to be the day. So 05. So days between stages. So I have to do a date diff on the day between my minimum date. There's used for minimum. And then also number 4. Let's see what 4 did for us. So that's my next date. So this is going to do like do a lookup function. So this is going to jump from, the last date to the next one. That's going to give me my actually span between the two. And then this one checks if it's the max date for that land. So that one's going to be your level of a detail. I'm going to get the fixed on the land development and the table. I want the maximum day. Right. So those are all the pieces that would go into it. But it's just kind of a matter of, getting your dates in one column is definitely important. And then just figure out how you want to do it.
Can you give me that date diff calc, Chris? I'm putting in some screenshots of each of those for Fernando and anybody else that wants them. Yeah, 4.
Thank you both. Thank you, Chris. I look forward to playing around with this now. Probably for the next month's call, I'll have a brand new set of questions, but I'm excited about this. So thank you.
Yeah,
You are welcome.
There's the date diff, Heather. And then
I got it. I think I got the other ones.
Did you? Okay, I can give them to you again.
Yep, I think I got them.
All right, okay, fair enough.
Got it, sir.
And
So those
I'd like to give a little plug to our whole naming convention. If you
Yeah,
don't
let's
do
talk
your
about it.
calculations like this, I think it's super helpful. Like, for example, if I was to go make a change to 001, well, I can tell you that 1 is used in this calculation, this one, and this one. So if I want to make a change here, I've got to really be careful, right? So we always make all of our calculations have a unique number in front of them. And then if that calculation is nested inside another one, then we're going to list it on the end, right? So because so often when I would get dashboards that I inherited from somebody else, and ever how they named things made it really confusing for me. So I do this because I think it really makes it easy to hand over, and somebody can get it. They can follow your logic really easily. There's no question of which actually field I'm using. I'm using 007. I'm using 002, right? Of course, the 007. Normally, I put something fun in there. I don't normally give you that. I normally take that one myself. I'll do a little Easter egg normally. So let's put it off my game on this one. But,
007 for your eyes only. I like it. And we've got shaken, not stirred. Excellent. Chris always puts a few little Easter eggs if you're paying attention on our team to keep us on our toes, and just for fun in case our clients might find them someday. So that's great. Chris, I'm also going to reorder the next question we have. Let me pull that up just based on who's on the call. And I know you worked on this already. We've got Todd on the call as well. And Todd was the one that asked this question. Here, I'll share my screen again real fast, Chris. Going back and forth, playing the screen share game. This is the question that Todd had, color encoding positive and negative change in view title without displaying none when one of the fields is null. So Todd, Chris is going to show you what he came up with as a way to do this. And if that's not what you had in mind, just speak up and let us know. So Chris, I'll let you see here.
Chris.
Yep. So I don't know if it's exactly what you wanted, but I think it is. I'm trying to get it back to the broken spot. Okay, so I think this is what you want. So I have had this before, and sometimes I spend the time to do it the right way. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt. So the same dashboard, I got down here, I'm doing a filter out, so it says waterfalls none. If I click on Clark College or Buffalo Ranch, one's like, oh, coming up. Yeah, I should change this. It didn't. Anyway, so that's coming up with that name, right? So but it goes back to none. Is that what you're having trouble with?
Yeah, I think so. And I can show, I've got a little mock-up dashboard of my use case.
Oh, great.
Can I share?
Well, here, let me show you what I actually did.
Okay.
To solve it. I'm just gonna hit the back button a couple times because I already had it there.
And then we do want to see yours, Todd, for sure.
So what I did was, so now you see that, that looks correct. Everything's right. So, but what I did was, if you look at this dashboard, what I did was I actually hid of the title. And so I just made the top thing the same color as my thing. So this is actually the title of the dashboard, but this is what shows up. So on the sheet, I actually hid it. So I have the title hidden. Right.
Yeah.
And this is just my top like row of actually data. So there's no way to get rid of that none that I have found. So that's kind of a cheating way to do it. That's why Heather was calling it a hack. But I think it's creative. I think it's a hack.
Innovative, creative.
Yeah. No, that is
Offense to that.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of, I didn't come up with that approach, but I came up with the same conclusion, just trying to play around with it. I'll show you mine.
Yeah, the other thing you could do is you can hide the titles and you could just make a sheet out of that, and you could make the sheet look like a.
Yeah.
That
That's
also
what I ended up doing, is taking the title and making it its own sheet. I was trying to do it this way, where I've got those two calculated fields and color coding them, and kind of like what I'm doing in the tooltip. That approach works great. Like you can see here, it's negative, and then in this one, it's doing the positive. But in the tooltip or in the title, it has a different behavior when there's a null, which is, I was hoping was a way to.
Yeah, no, I've seen it happen before, and I typically do a new sheet for those, but I was kind of, and I did a couple of searches, and somebody mentioned this method that I just showed you. So that's what I ended up doing. But you could probably do that here as well. No, I guess you can't. You have to have the name of the field. So I think you're gonna have to have a separate sheet for this example, which I have definitely done. That happens a lot. So
yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for digging in on that one. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and if we can get Fernando together with his spicy guac and Todd together with his sous vide ribs, we're gonna have some good cookouts here. Patty's got her deviled eggs, so we're getting a full course meal here. I think actually it's quite balanced, which is great. We've got a protein, we've got some carbs coming in here, we've got some good spicy things. So Amber, great question. And if we could get this team together for a cookout, we're going to be in good shape. So we'll eat well. That is awesome. All right. So let's go ahead. Next question, Chris, that we had, and I'm just making sure if we've had any other questions before I jump into the submitted ones. I don't see any that I've missed. Jordan, Amber, come off mute and let me know if there's any questions that have come in from the team. I think, Chris,
Can we talk about the cloud permissions?
Yeah, I was going to say, why don't we go ahead and go to the cloud and bridge. I know you weren't going to do bridge. We're going to talk cloud permissions today. So let's go ahead and go there next.
Right.
And let me stop sharing my screen for you.
I opened up our cloud instance. So a couple things. I'm going to show you something that we're working on, by the way. So one of the things that I've found is that as soon as people move over to the cloud, which is happening more and more because Tableau is putting all their new functionality on the cloud, the number one thing they do is they get rid of their server admin or their site admin. They think they don't really need it anymore. So that I think, so you're asking about the whole permissions makes actually sense. There's 4 things that I like to do for all of mine. is one, I make sure I delete the all user account. This one you can do that in your default, your kind of default project, and then that will stick. That will not. So if you create a new project folder, that'll happen. The one that doesn't stick is this one drives me crazy. Is this always comes in as actually custom. So I actually feel that we should never give permission rights to the creators. I think there should be a security policy rules in place. And the policy rules I like to follow are the all user has access to nothing. Every project is locked and the nested projects are locked. That way your site admins don't want to change them. And then third, you should have all actually people be in actually groups, right? You shouldn't have like me, like I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have me having something or something like that. So that shouldn't happen. And then, so what we've done for this, I'll just show you, I'll make a couple things break here. We put this is we have and I'll go run it and I'll show it to you. Come on, go, the Zoom thing's in the way. There we go. All right, so I kind of set those wrong. So what we have is we have this risk overview. So this is a product that we're going to roll out here pretty soon. That basically you can set your security policies, your audits, and then you can have it go and actually check to see what's happening. So here I'm checking these 4 policies. You can have more policies if you want, and then we could have, you know, like all things checked. So I just actually changed those. I just made them wrong. I made them fail. So I'll go and run this right now. You wouldn't have to do this normally. It would run a couple times a day, if you wanted. It doesn't take but a second to run. And then, come on, you say it takes a second. Now it's gonna make me wait. While it's doing that, I'll show you the next dashboard. This one always, this is the kind of history. It also keeps up with the history of all of the fails that you've had. So, of course, when I do that, it does that to me. All right, here we go. So this is a list of, okay, we found 8 over time, 2 are still open, 6 have been, and that's the 2 that I just changed, by the way. Right. So it's already run and found those 2. So I've got 2 that have been open for one day, and I got to go and fix them. I have fixed 6, and then 2 of them were actually over my SLA. So SLA is 5 days. So these were open for 8. So those get a little red stripe on them. If I go back to the other dashboard, you can see that now this one has been updated, and it will show those 2 that have failed, right? So there's my 2 that I have. So I could click it, I could go to the URL, and it would let me go in here to fix these things and go from there. So as far as permissions, I do think that there's a lot of things that you know, just having your policies and knowing what those are. So I'm gonna get rid of, I've already got that one. This is the problem. Forgot, locked. That's that, and I should not be here. Okay. So done and done. And if I was to rerun this again, it's just going to tell me it's done. There we go. Crawl it again. Perfect. And then a couple seconds later, it'll come back and it'll tell me that that's done. So does that help with the permissions? Does that help you?
Jyothi's not on the call right now, Chris, so they'll be watching the recording with it, but I hope so. And I just want to point out, you know, permissions. I think one of the things that's really, you know, great about Tableau Cloud is that all of your updates and things can happen without you having to do it. But this is one of those pieces that doesn't go away. So I think it's a great question that it came in, that it was around cloud permissions, but permissions are one of the things you're still going to need to have data governance, even if you're on Tableau Cloud and you don't have to be responsible for your upgrades for the server. But
Right.
Those same roles, you know, the same policies are important whether you're on cloud or you're on Tableau server still. And so both places, the permissions matter. And this Tableau risk review that Chris has been demoing, that's a beta of a product that we'll be launching here in the next month, I'd say. that should be
Yeah.
coming out for Tableau Risk Review. It will work on both of those, both Tableau Server and Tableau Cloud. So,
Yep. So, yeah.
we did talk about Tableau LODs. Jyoti also had a question around desktop calculations. I think we can get into that, later, if you want to show any of that.
What do you mean? That's the desktop, just like, is that person on the call?
No, they're not on the call. So I think we hope
Yeah,
that maybe they
that's a
come
super
back.
broad. That's a
Yeah,
super broad thing. I can't.
I'm like, there are many types of calcs. And so, if we have time at the end, I can bring up one of the things from the Boulder Insight Academy content that we have that kind of talks about the different types of calculations in Tableau in a bit. But I think we could reach out to Jyoti in between and ask for a little bit more information to narrow that question, but we're happy to answer that if they would like to join the next call or give us some additional information. I think the only one for you, Chris, I'll end with mapping and see how far we get, because we have Sarab on the call, and I want to make sure we answer people's questions on the call. I don't believe Sakshi or Martin are on today, so I'll get to mapping after this. But why don't we go ahead and I know Sarab had a question around custom SQL and the SQL stored procs, the SQL Sprock linking. So perhaps you could that question.
So first off, you probably should not use use like a custom SQL, because what you're doing when you're using custom SQL, you're basically telling Tableau that you know how to write the SQL that it needs, but better than it does. And so I know, especially people that come from a data background or a DBA background, they really like to write their own custom SQL. But the way Tableau works is you don't have to limit the data. You do that different ways. So so especially if you're going with like a live connection, then your custom SQL is always going to be slower than just building your joins like I showed you in that last one. As far as linking to stored procs, it should work exactly the same way. I'll put this in the chat, but it should just show up as a stored proc, and then you'll have the ability to put in the whole parameters. So it's kind of the same thing. It's just a matter of linking it up. But they should show up as tables, and then your stored proc should actually be there. So I'll put this in the chat if I can find the thing. Chat.
And Sarab, if you have more specific questions around the SQL piece for Chris, just please come off mute, and we'll do our best to answer that. And Chris, that went to me. I'm going to put that to everybody. Hey, Sarab.
That was really perfect. Like I heard at the Tableau conference the same thing. Like they suggested not to use the custom SQL, and I wanted to know like more about it. Like why is that the case? And Chris explained it perfectly. So thank you.
It's
Great.
Tableau join culling. So that's really the reason is like Tableau makes it faster by doing what's called join culling. And so if you have custom SQL, you're not going to be able to benefit from this. Is kind of the short of it.
Yeah, and I just started using like Tableau Prep, and I noticed that is much easier than writing a SQL code on something else as well.
For
so,
sure.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So I'll put this in there as well. This is also another good thing just to know.
Great, Chris.
I'll try to do it this time.
That's all right. If you do it to me, I'll still put it in. There it is. I see that in the link as well. And Sarab is bringing sliders to the barbecue, by the way. So So I know Chris is a slider fan. All right. So the last submitted question we had was all about mapping. So I just want to make sure before I jump into mapping, if anyone else had a question that they wanted us to answer, you can come off mute or put it in the chat. If not, I'm going to hop into this question. It came from Sakshi and Martin D. So let me just pause for a second, make sure no questions are coming in. I think we're good to go. One of the questions was just maps. Talk to us about maps. And the other one was using the mapping feature. So I'm going to show just some of the basic mapping ways that you can work in Tableau. But what I can tell you is mapping is going to get even better. It's one of those things that they keep leaning into in Tableau. And there's more and more layers of being added, and types of geocoding that you can use, types of data types for that as well. But one of the things that did come up in TC was that there's going to be these new Tableau spatial parameters that are dynamic. So I do have a link in this. I'll pull that link up. And if you start at 1 hour, 24 minutes, if you just fast forward to that, that's where it was Devs on stage. And she was talking about the dynamic parameters. The other thing that's shown a few minutes in beyond the 124 is that there's now the ability to start, that they are not out yet, but they're going to be coming soon. You'll have the ability to use the arrows keys to navigate a map and select things. So that's going to be really helpful from an ADA compliance for inclusivity and accessibility. They're doing a whole lot more around ADA compliance and allowing the keyboard to be the way to navigate rather than a mouse. Oh, we've got some more great questions coming in from Todd. So before I go too deep into mapping, another question, do you know where the new sentiment analysis capability, when the new sentiment analysis and where that kind of capability will be available? Is it only on cloud? I'm going to go with yes, that it's only on cloud, Todd. From what I know, any of these new features that they're building, they're doing them only in cloud. Einstein, Copilot, Pulse. So I think I did see new sentiment analysis at TC. Chris, I don't know if you've seen anything else about where that will be available.
I don't remember when they said that. That was I actually left the actually keynote like really worried because they went over so much, and I'm like, I'm so far behind, and then realized, okay, it was only 2 things out now, so I didn't have to really freak out as much as I did. But yeah, that was one. I don't think it's coming anytime soon. But
yeah, I believe everything I know, Todd, is any of the things that any of those new tools and features, they're really moving to cloud. That's been a big push with Salesforce. Their logo is a cloud, and they love having everything in cloud, and you can, manage upgrades and version control and things more when it's in cloud. So I know that's where things are leading. And then the other question Todd has, do you know where the new sentiment analysis? Oh, it's the same question, just came in twice, one to me and one to everybody.
Yeah, I was just hoping that you could use it if someone was on Tableau server, that
Right.
they were managing, if there was a way to do it, but I guess it was cloud only.
I don't know. I mean, like the thing is that I really like I know that Salesforce really likes cloud, and I understand why they do, because it makes it easier to manage. But I can't imagine that they're going to get all of their customers to change over, because I mean, having your own server is got value.
Yeah, there's definitely, but it's not going to go away. But I think a lot of the features aren't going to go there, is from everyone I've talked to at headquarters. But I do know, Chris, we've done a lot with sentiment and inclination with a couple of our clients. We were even published in the one book as well around it way before they announced it. Do you want to talk through that at all before I jump into mapping, or should I go to mapping?
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to do it. It's really so we actually partner with a guy at a company called like a Forest Rim. His name is Bill Inman. And he's basically the father of the data warehouse. He actually and he has this textual ETL tool that he takes data that's unstructured and makes it structured. And so that is a really quick way to get your sentiment analysis done. So he spits out a data set. He just takes your data, like whatever you have, and he could spit it out in a way that you can easily visualize it. So he actually wrote a book on that. And then he used us to make examples of his data sets. So if I were doing it, I would use something like that, because it's just out of the box, it's done.
And he's a local treasure. Todd, I know you're in Highlands Ranch area. He's a Denver guy, just brilliant, sweet guy that has lots of good information out there. I'll try to find the text and analytics simplified book of his. There's an ebook I'm finding here, so
I'm actually putting into a chat his website.
Oh, great! There you go, Chris.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
And this is his ebook as well. And then there is, as far as visualizing sentiment. There's a really great article. Steve Wexler's you may know him from the Tableau community. He's a friend of mine, and this is one of his best blog posts on visualizing sentiment too. So hopefully that will help as well. But let me stop sharing this, and I'll pull open one of our workbooks around showing location. So maps are awesome, and maps are also limited. So we want to say everybody understands a map. So that's one great thing, that if you want to show location, you want to use a map. But if you want to actually compare items and things, you don't want to use a map. So if you want to be, ranking things, if you want to be knowing what's greater than others, maps are limited to what they can do. So it's very rare if we ever build a map in any of our dashboards at Boulder Insight. We will build a map that's always paired at least with a horizontal bar chart that has been sorted in descending order, and then use dashboard actions between them, because maps are great for showing location. If you're trying to do more than that with a map, you may be overshooting what you want to do. So to do a map, for any of you that are brand new to Tableau and you're not sure how to build a map, one of the key things that you can do with a map to build a map is just, take, if you'll notice in Tableau, if you have any of the location items in your data set and you have it set, so you have to have a field, and then you need to make that field, you have to make that a geographic role. So when you look at this, you'll see here are the geographic roles. Out of the box for Tableau, you have airports, area codes, the core-based statistical average or metropolitan statistical area, city, congressional districts, country regions, counties. Be careful when you see country and county. Sometimes people mix those up when they assign them. The NUTS in Europe, and state and province, and zip code and postal code. Those are all built into Tableau. When you assign a geographic role, this visual cue will show up. That is showing you that it is a geographic role. It looks like a little globe with lat and long in it. The other thing that you'll notice with a map is that you're going to have latitude and longitude that are going to be generated in italics. So anytime you see any of your measures or your dimensions that have some italic field in them, like measure names for dimensions or measure values for measures, latitude, longitude, if you have geographic roles, these are automatically generated by Tableau, so you can easily build a map. So if I wanted to build a map, I could go ahead and, let's say if I want to go to my location fields, I'm going to go ahead and just bring in country region. You can drag it either to detail on the marks card or directly into the view itself. When you do that, it will start to bring in, okay, we're looking just at the US data here, so it will bring that in. And you'll notice, because I have this built as a hierarchy, I can actually just hit the plus and minus here. If I didn't, I could drag in yet another field. I could drag in state. And so when I start bringing in state, you automatically are starting to create dashboards. So from here, you can do things like add borders to them. You can, you can have something on size to make the size change. So to do that, you would have to bring in one of your measures. So you may say, hey, I want to look at the measures and I want to see how our profitability is doing in each of our states. I can bring that to size if I want, or I could say, you know what, I want profit on color. That was automatically change that to a filled map for me because it's much easier to visualize. So if I bring profit onto color, now you can see Colorado not profitable, North Carolina not profitable, Pennsylvania not profitable, and Illinois not profitable. I'm getting concerned because Colorado, North Carolina, PA are all places where we have a staff, or I lived in my life. And so I'm wondering if maybe I'm the problem here, why we're not profitable. But you start to see profitability. Now, let's say that you want to do something where you want to see those sales again, but remember those sales went away. What I can do is something that's called a dual axis map or a dual layer map. And so if I do that, you'll notice I can have my profitability. If I go back to where I was on my starter and I want to make this have the sales on as well, I can do something that's called a dual axis chart. So if I hold down Control, bring latitude or longitude, this would work, and I click on it and drag it over, it makes a copy of that. So now I have 3 different marks cards, one for all, one for the first latitude and one for the second. So I can swap out that profit for some. I can take my sales instead of to size. And now I've got the size showing with it. All I have to do is take this map and make the other one go on top of it by clicking that drop down arrow and going to dual axis. So when I do that, that pulls that forward. Now you've got the dual axis map and things as well. We can go much deeper in a later session. I know we don't have either of the people that asked that. There's all kinds of mapping that we can do. You can even map on any object you want. There's a great article on how to map anything in Tableau that you can map on a baseball field. You can map on a grocery store, chart and things, a layout of your store, and you can see where things are getting the most traffic and all. So there's ways that you can map anything. All you really need is an X and Y value, like your latitude and longitude would serve as, and that's how you can map. So we can go deeper in our next session. If you all have any additional questions with that, let me go back for the last minute or two that we have. We just wanted to let you all know, let me get back to presenting this. We have a tool called Vizbot, and we do a webinar every quarter with it, and that's coming up June 12th. Vizbot is a way for people who aren't ready for dynamic interactive dashboards, and they just want your dashboards and Tableau to be sent out to them in an email burst. It will automatically send vizzes to people on a schedule that isn't, it's just a PNG file or JPEG file or PDF that you're sending out. It's not an interactive dashboard, but it sends that out to lots of people in a really slick and great way to be able to see that. So make sure you check out the webinar if you're interested in that capability. And know that our next session is coming up. We always meet on the second Wednesday of the month, typically. So if you're looking to join us again, you found us here, those of you that have joined live, but you can also go to our website, boulderinsight.com, go to the Tableau live screen, and here's where you can sign up next. And you'll see our next session is going to be on June 19th. So we're so thrilled you all could join us today. We hope that you come back again next month and come with more questions. So, and Jordan did put in the Vizbot website for anybody that's interested in that. So we'll see you in June. Happy summer. I'm hungry with all those great barbecue suggestions. So I think I need to go take a break and eat some lunch now. So I don't know about you, Chris, but I'm thinking sliders sound really good. So have a great one, everybody. Happy May.